Photography during the winter can suck. Between the cold, the wind, the wet and soggy feeling from rain and snow, and the worst part, not being able to feel your hands, it can be a real drag. But that last part, your hands being cold, doesn't have to be that way. Let's talk about it. Using gloves while using your camera is a terrible experience. It's hard to hold the camera, it's hard to operate the buttons and dials, it's just hard to use a camera while you're wearing gloves. But PGY Tech has changed this with their professional photography gloves. Huge shout out for PGY Tech for sending me their professional photography gloves to review. They aren't paying me, they don't have a say in my thoughts on this video, they just sent me them to check it out, so thank you. It's also perfect timing because we've recently gotten the first snow in 700 days here in NYC. PGY Tech makes a few different types of gloves dedicated for photography. The first being their fingerless gloves, which is for a warmer climate. The second being their professional photography gloves, which are the ones I have, which are rated for about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. And then there's their Master series, which is for even colder climates. I've only used the professional photography gloves, and the quality has been great, so I'd expect great quality for the other two in this photography glove series as well. I chose the professional photography gloves because I think it was the perfect middle ground between the three options PGY Tech has. I didn't need the Master series because I wasn't going out shooting landscapes in freezing cold environments, but I am shooting out in the city streets when it does get cold, not just colder than 14 degrees on most days. I also didn't want the fingerless gloves because I didn't think they would be warm enough for the winter season we have here in New York. I also chose these gloves because of the size. They are still winter gloves and they look like winter gloves, but they're not super bulky, so it's easier to operate your camera while using them. Since getting the professional photography gloves, I've used my camera with gloves more often than not, and I've never been able to say that before. And I think I can use my camera so well with these professional photography gloves for a couple reasons, so let's talk about them. The first reason, and really why these are photography gloves, are because the fingertips on the thumb, pointer, and middle finger flip up, revealing your actual finger. This means you can access the dials and the buttons super easily while your rest of your hand still stays warm. I think if you're looking for a glove for photography, this is a must-have feature. In the past, I've tried other gloves that have this feature where you can flip up fingertips, and they haven't been great. I found the opening for your fingers too small, I found flipping them up to be a clunky experience or hard to do on the go, and with the PGY Tech Professional Photography Gloves, I didn't have any of these issues. They were comfortable and easy to use, which is also a must when you're out shooting photos. You don't want to be dragged down because of your gloves. The other reason I really liked using these gloves for photography was because of the size and the bulk. As I mentioned earlier, they are winter gloves and they do have that winter glove look, but I felt like it was super easy to move my fingers and manipulate my fingers when using the camera, despite the bulk. The gloves had just enough padding and thickness to keep your fingers and hands warm while still giving you enough movability to use your camera even with the fingertips closed. It's also nice that the fingertips are touchscreen compatible when they are closed, so you don't need to open them every time you want to use your phone or touch the back of your camera screen. So if it was a really cold day and I wanted to keep my fingers even warmer, I would keep the fingertips closed and I wouldn't have an issue operating my camera, which I can't say about other gloves I've used in the past. The last reason I had such an easy time using these gloves with my camera was because of the grip. And I'll admit, when I first took the gloves out of the package, I was a little nervous. Usually gloves have a little rubbery texture to give you extra grip when you're using a device, and these didn't have that. But the padding they did have and the grip they did have was surprisingly strong, and it didn't feel sticky. It didn't feel like it was getting caught in stuff that I didn't want it to. It felt more like a natural grip than having a rubber texture on, and I actually really enjoyed that. Even though it made me nervous at first, I think it worked really well. On top of all the great photography focused features, these gloves had everything you would expect in a normal winter glove. From 3M insulin material, to adjustments to keep them tight and to keep the wind out, from clasps to keep them together. They were also weatherproof and water resistant, which is all things you would expect in an average winter glove. PGY Tech implemented everything you would need and expect and want in a winter glove, which is even more impressive because they're not an outdoor clothing manufacturer. So props to them, they did a good job with these. The one thing I do want to note is that the magnets that were holding down the fingertips when the fingertips weren't in use felt a bit weak. They would hold them down, but if you moved too much, they would often pop back up. That being said, when they did pop back up, they really didn't stay too far off the body. They were pretty compact, and the fingertips weren't getting in the way when they weren't in use, so it wasn't a huge deal. I think these gloves offer a really fantastic value. When you look at other gloves dedicated for photography use, they're often much more expensive, and I think PGY Tech comes in at the perfect price point and has great quality to back that up. Now I know you're super excited to go out and purchase these gloves now, but before you do, I really recommend looking at their sizing guide. I think I messed up when I was looking at the sizing guide, and my gloves were just slightly too small. They still fit, but I think I would have been happier with the larger pair. So if you're in between sizes or if you're unsure, I recommend going a size up rather than a size down. If you are purchasing these gloves, I'll either have a link or a discount code in the description. Make sure to use that to get the best deal possible. For now, go out and shoot some photos and stay warm.